are really proud and happy to be partnering with Democracy Now! On this project, and we really are excited that 4 of the boldest, bravest women in the U.S. Congress are going to be here today. They are progressive voices for change. They belong to us, and we belong to them. The squad is all of us who not only believe in, but are committed to fighting for freedom. And that's what we're about organizing ourselves to do in the Rising Majority. With all the organizations in the Rising Majority, we are about not just activism, we are about organizing.
So I want to say, I mean, you all talk about, and it's true, that your very presence constitutes a form of resistance and of protest. And that's one of the most remarkable things about your entry into Congress. I mean, it's a transformative moment in American politics, because suddenly the social justice activism and the resistance that you all represent moved from outside the corridors of power to the very center of state power. So if you could talk a little about how you think that movement has altered the resistance and also its effects.
So I am, quite excited actually about the kind of opportunities we have been presented because of the current challenges we have. As someone who's had a very challenging life, I always find an opportunity in every challenge. And I know that at this moment, we have had an opportunity to see every broken system reveal itself. We have had an opportunity for people to recognize what they are not only losing, but what they could gain. We have had an opportunity to allow for the racists and the bigots to fully tell on themselves. And we have had an opportunity for people who have never really imagined themselves fully powerful in the corridors of power to recognize that they cannot be muzzled, intimidated, and silenced, that we are not ever going to be dismissed unless we allow ourselves to be dismissed. And I think the shock that our presence really has brought is that for too long, people have gotten used to having mediocre white men show up and think they own the day without anybody ever questioning their credentials, their qualifications, and their vision for a broken America.
I don't think it is a coincidence or an accident that we are descendants of untold stories in the United States and in the world. To be a daughter of a colonized people in Puerto Rico, to be descendants of people who were placed in bondage by the powerful in the United States, to be a Palestinian woman, to be a child who rose from the ravages of war. We tell stories and truths that are uncomfortable, and our very existence is a descendance of discomfort or uncomfortable stories that, or rather they're uncomfortable to be told today. There is so much effort put in to not tell these stories. And now we've been elected on a mandate to tell this truth. I think it's a challenging balance, because when you're inside, the word is just always compromise. And you have to decide what is a just compromise and what is compromising your identity, who you are, and the very essence of your being. And that, I think it's not just questions that we have to navigate individually, but questions that we have to navigate as a movement, because we're not used to winning in this way. And now we have a power that is somewhat novel electorally. And we have to learn how to wield that. And that's where accountability from the outside is the most important, because you all help show us the way.
I mean, what's incredible about my sisters up here and all of us is, I mean, we ran not one dime of corporate dollars. Like, we ran with no corporate PAC money. We ran talking about our immigrant stories, our backgrounds, our parents. I mean, every time Ayanna talks about her mother, I tear up. We talk about these forms of oppression that we've all gone through in our lives, in our workplaces and everything. But we ran just as we are. Yeah, we're always, you know, I hate when they say outside. No, we're an extension. We are such an extension of what you all are doing. Plus, you all give us credibility. When I'm yelling about something, it's like, you're all like, no, that's actually happening to me. What Rashida just said is true. You all just gave corporate tax dollars to a billionaire in downtown Detroit, Dan Gilbert, who's been investigated for mortgage fraud, while you're taking my children away. You're taking my children away because I can't pay for my water because it's unaffordable, because you're saying I'm neglecting, but you'll spend money on a for-profit entity of foster care that is helping the private sector, but you won't help me feed my babies. So I just want you to know, like, every time we hear your stories, every time you're out there pushing back, you all uplift what we're doing inside. We are you. Like, I just hope you believe that.
Now, I don't know how long it takes a pebble to travel from the diaspora, the African diaspora, all the way to Chicago, and then to Boston, and then to DC. That's my life journey. But I'm just telling you that we're actually in the momentum. And what I mean by that is, in the way that we are intentional about bringing our ancestors into spaces, I have got to bring people like Barbara Lee and Maxine Waters. Yes, you know, there is a paradigm shift occurring, but there have been women before us, women of color before us, black women before us, who shook the table, who called the question, who sought justice, who were the truth tellers, who preserved our democracy, and we are simply honoring and trying to be good stewards of the ground that they laid.
Everybody make some noise. Based out of New York, we have a Puerto Rican activist, social justice artist, and she's about to make y'all move a little bit. Make some noise for Taína Asili.
Para hacerlo So the Movement for Black Lives is an ecosystem made up of 150 Black led organizations across the country. We believe that we are following the legacy of the Black radical tradition. Octavia Butler says, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns, and so we consider ourselves a new sun. We're currently living inside of a long-term strategy on the right. And for many reasons, we often move in response. And so both the Rising Majority and the Movement for Black Lives are really invested in both committing to and articulating and actualizing a long-term strategy to get us free.
Today, so my name is Greisa Martinez Rosas. I am undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed. Sisters and brothers, I get the pleasure to be part of United We Dream. And we are just representatives of 700,000 young people all across the country that reach 5 million people every single month to talk to them about 3 things. One is joyful rebellion. This is a moment where we can stand up, we can sing, we can dance, and we can show up in the streets. The second thing is we're calling for the abolishment of ICE and CBP. We're calling for the abolishment of mass incarceration of Black and brown people, and we are calling for the ability to be free to move and free to stay. And the third thing, sisters and brothers, that we do at United We Dream is we build grassroots power. Because we know that the flashiness of Washington, D.C., of the media, it's temporary, and it's not gonna last forever, but what will last forever is our relationships.
I have been an activist and an organizer for a very long time, since I was 6. I am originally from Puerto Rico, and I grew up organizing in my community. My father was a community organizer, and I started fighting for water, just to have access to running water when I was 6 years old. My main fight has been against neoliberalism since I was in Puerto Rico. Because both capitalism, right, and neoliberalism is the force that has been wrecking our lives by cutting every single safety net that will allow us to be able to have decent lives, right? So that has been my main fight since I was in Puerto Rico. I had to move to Chicago because of austerity. I was a teacher in Puerto Rico. I had to move to Chicago because of austerity, and then when I went to Chicago, it was the same, right? Like, people were still fighting neoliberalism, and we're fighting all of these cuts, and there's no resources for anything. And I was elected in the city of Chicago for the Chicago City Council as one of the 6 socialists that are now occupying seats. And my race particularly was really contentious. I am the first brown woman in a seat that belonged to a dynasty for 44 years. And we challenged them and we won, but we won this election by 13 votes. And we won this election because we have been building movement for so long.
Ella Baker was a freedom fighter, and she taught us how to fight. And we gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?